The story begins with a moment that the whole world had waited for. After years of planning, testing, training, and dreaming, the first human team finally landed on Mars. Millions of people watched the live broadcast as the spacecraft touched down on the red planet. Inside the ship, the team felt both fear and excitement. They knew they were part of something that would change human history forever. The team stepped out and looked at the endless red desert. The ground was silent, the sky was dusty, and the air was thin. But to them, this place felt like a new beginning. They named their base Horizon 1, the first human home on another planet. Inside the habitat, everything was advanced: oxygen generators, water systems, medical units, and strong outer walls to protect against storms. For the first few days, everything went smoothly. The team followed their plans, checking equipment, collecting rock samples, testing soil, and taking pictures for Earth. Every night, they sent a report back home. People on Earth celebrated every picture and every message. It seemed like the mission was going perfectly. But on the third night, something unusual happened. One team member, working late inside the lab area, suddenly heard a very soft thud. It was a quiet sound, almost like someone tapping on metal from outside the habitat. At first, he ignored it, thinking it was just the wind or shifting rocks. Mars often had small movements in the soil. But the sound came again, this time a bit louder. He froze. The astronaut slowly walked to the window and looked out. The red sandstorm from earlier had cleared, and the land outside was empty. Nothing moved. The lights from the habitat shined on the open ground, but he saw no rocks falling or equipment moving. Still, he felt uneasy. He reported the sound to the commander, and soon the whole team gathered. They checked sensors, air pressure, and external cameras. Everything looked normal. No danger, no movement, no problem. The team decided it was nothing serious and went back to their tasks. But the astronaut who heard the sound could not sleep that night. Something inside him felt wrong. He kept thinking about that strange thud, how it sounded close, too close, like something was touching the wall. What he didn't know was that this was only the beginning. Mars was quiet, too quiet, and in the silence of Horizon 1, something hidden in the darkness was already watching them. The next morning, the team stepped outside to inspect the solar panels. A light storm had passed during the night, so they wanted to check if dust had covered the panels. Everything seemed normal at first: silent red rocks, empty horizon, and the same cold air. But then one of the astronauts suddenly stopped walking. He was staring down at the sand, confused. Another astronaut followed his eyes and froze too. Right in front of them, just a few steps away from the solar panel row, were footprints. Not random marks, not wind patterns, not rover tracks. Footprints. But they were not human. The shape was wrong. Long toes, deep heel, and a strange curve at the front, like an animal that walked upright. The size was almost the same as a human boot, but the pattern was nothing like the team's shoes. The dust storm had ended only 4 hours earlier, yet these prints were fresh. Too fresh. The team looked around quickly, scanning the open land. No movement, no shadows, no animals, no life. "How did these get here?" one whispered. The commander ordered everyone to step back and not disturb the trail. They began taking pictures and recording measurements. The footprints formed a line, but the direction made no sense. The prints began near the solar panels and continued outward toward the empty valley. But here was the strange part. The line ended suddenly, like something heavy walked into the sand, and then disappeared into the air. No drag marks, no jumping pattern, no sign of returning, as if whatever made the footprints simply vanished. The team sent the pictures to Earth. Mission Control did not respond for almost 15 minutes. When the reply finally came, the voice sounded nervous. They told the team to collect more data but avoid following the prints deeper into the valley. Inside Horizon 1, everyone was silent during lunch. They tried to stay calm, but the truth hung heavy in the air. Something unknown had come close to their base at night, closer than anyone realized. Later that evening, while reviewing the camera feeds, one astronaut noticed something else. Just before the storm ended, the external camera captured a faint shadow near the habitat. It moved quickly, crossing the camera's edge before disappearing. The team replayed the clip again and again. The shape was not human, not robotic, not dust. Something had been there, watching, waiting, learning about them. And the team now understood. The thud from last night was not a rock. It was something knocking. By the next morning, Horizon 1 felt different. The team tried to act normal, but everyone kept glancing at the windows. The memory of the strange footprints stayed in their minds like a shadow they couldn't remove. Still, they continued their work, because they had no choice. While checking the communication tower, one astronaut suddenly noticed an unusual sound coming from the receiver. It was soft, deep, and repeated every few seconds. Thump, thump, thump. At first, they thought it was an error or interference from the storm. But the pattern was too clean to be an accident. The sound felt almost alive, like a heartbeat. The commander gathered everyone inside the control room. They played the sound again on speakers. The room became silent. One of the science officers checked the frequency carefully. "This signal is coming from under the ground," he said slowly, "far below the surface, at least several hundred meters." Everyone stared at him, shocked. Mars had never shown any sign of living systems. No heartbeats, no movement, no underground creatures. It was supposed to be a dead planet. So what was making that sound? They sent a rover to the location where the signal was strongest. The rover rode over rocks and dust until it reached a flat red plain. As it approached the center of the signal, the heartbeat-like sound became louder. Then, without warning, the signal stopped, completely silent. The team thought maybe the rover lost connection, but all systems were still normal. The rover camera showed only flat ground and red dust. There was no cave, no crack, no movement, just empty land. But before they could relax, the signal returned with a sudden burst, this time coming from a different direction. Not underground, right behind the habitat. The team rushed to look out the rear window. The open land behind Horizon 1 was still and quiet. No footprints, no movement, no shadow. But the signal continued, getting stronger, faster, like something breathing close to them. One astronaut whispered, "It's following us." For the first time since landing on Mars, fear filled the room. Not simple fear, deep fear. The kind you feel when you know someone is watching you, but you can't see them. The commander made a decision. They would scan the entire area using thermal imaging. When the scan appeared on the screen, everyone stepped back in shock. There was a heat signature behind the habitat, small, strange, and moving. Not human, not mechanical, something else. And whatever it was getting closer. The heat signature behind the habitat stayed on the screen for almost 30 seconds, then faded away as if the creature, or whatever it was, melted into the cold air. The team rushed outside, lights on, scanners active, but they found nothing. No new footprints. No marks. Only untouched red sand. But one thing was clear. Something on Mars was intelligent enough to avoid them. The commander ordered a wide area scan of the region. As they searched the valley, the rover detected a strange opening on the side of a rocky cliff. It wasn't on any map. No satellite image had ever shown it. The opening was small, half covered in dust, like something had recently pushed through. The team approached carefully. The wind was calm, and the sky was turning a soft pink as Martian evening arrived. Up close, the opening looked more like a doorway. The edges were smooth, too smooth to be natural. When the team's light touched the stone, they saw faint carvings scratched into the wall. Patterns, symbols, lines that curved like waves. "This is not natural," one astronaut said quietly. Inside the opening, the tunnel sloped downward. Cool air drifted out. Strange for Mars. The team walked deeper, their lights cutting through the darkness. Every step echoed. The feeling of being watched grew stronger with every meter. Finally, the tunnel opened into a hidden chamber. The walls were carved with symbols, thousands of them, glowing softly as if reacting to the presence of humans. The floor was smooth stone, and in the center stood a tall structure. It looked like an altar or a pedestal. On top of it lay a metallic object the size of a human hand. It was shaped like a key, but not any key they had seen before. It was made of a material that reflected light, like liquid silver. One astronaut reached out slowly. "Should we touch it?" he whispered. The commander hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The astronaut lifted the object. The entire chamber came alive. The walls glowed brighter. The ground vibrated. A low humming noise filled the air, rising like a warning. Dust fell from the ceiling. The symbols began shifting, as if rewriting themselves in real time. Suddenly a pulse of blue light shot outward from the pedestal and moved across the room like a wave. The team stumbled back, shielding their eyes. When the light faded, every symbol stopped moving. The chamber became silent again. But now the metallic object in the astronaut's hand was glowing softly, like it had been waiting for someone to find it. None of them knew that they had just awakened something ancient beneath the surface of Mars, something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. When the team returned to Horizon 1 with the glowing metallic object, the atmosphere inside the habitat felt heavier, almost charged. No one spoke for a long time. The object sat on the main table, pulsing with a slow blue light, like a sleeping heart waking up. Sensors inside the habitat began acting strange. Temperatures fluctuated. Oxygen levels shifted by a few points. The communication screen flickered. It felt as if the base itself was reacting to the object's presence. Then, the ground outside trembled. At first, the tremor was soft, like distant thunder far beneath the surface. But within seconds, the vibration grew stronger. Tools fell off shelves. The lights flickered. Alarms began beeping one after another. Seismic activity detected, the system warned. But Mars wasn't known for strong quakes. The team rushed to the windows and stared out into the red landscape. In the distance, dust began rising, not from wind, but from the ground cracking open. The trembling became so strong that the entire habitat swayed slightly on its supports. Suddenly, a large rectangular plate of Martian soil lifted upward, driven by something below. The ground tore apart as a massive structure began to rise from beneath the planet's surface. It was not made of rock, not metal, not anything human. It looked like an ancient facility, smooth, black, and engraved with glowing symbols identical to the ones in the hidden chamber. Panels on its surface shifted and rotated like living machines. As it rose higher, it reflected the pale sun in strange ways, bending light around it. This was buried under us, one astronaut whispered. Within minutes, the structure stood fully exposed. It towered above Horizon 1 like a silent guardian. The ground stopped shaking, but the air around the habitat felt different, charged with energy. Radios filled with static. Internal lights dimmed. The object on the table glowed brighter, pulsing faster. Then came the worst part. The habitat's power suddenly cut out. Total darkness. Only the blue glow of the object remained, lighting the room with an eerie soft light. The team scrambled to restart backup systems, but nothing responded. Life support went offline. Communication with Earth became silent. Even their suit's internal radios glitched with strange interference, like whispers in an unknown language. The commander realized something terrifying. The structure was not just rising. It was activating. A deep humming filled the air, resonating through their bones. Outside the window, faint lights flickered across the structure's surface, waking one panel at a time. Whatever ancient system lay buried beneath the Martian soil, the humans had switched it on. And now, something was waiting to respond. The humming from the ancient structure grew deeper, vibrating through the thin Martian air. The team inside Horizon 1 felt it in their chests, slow, heavy, and powerful, as if a giant machine under the ground had begun breathing again after thousands of silent years. They tried restarting the habitat systems. Nothing worked. Every screen stayed black. Every alarm stayed dead. Even their wrist devices refused to turn on. Only the glowing object they found in the hidden chamber remained active, pulsing faster now, almost like it was calling to the structure outside. Then, without warning, a beam of light shot upward from the top of the ancient structure. It rose silently into the sky like a vertical river of blue fire. The light stretched so high that it disappeared into the thin Martian atmosphere. Inside Horizon 1, every team member froze. A moment later, the beam vanished. Silence returned, but not for long. Slowly, almost gently, a circular opening formed on the surface of the ancient structure. Panels slid apart with soft metallic clicks. A dark chamber was revealed inside, lit by a soft golden glow. Something floated in the center, a cube of light, rotating slowly, as if waiting. The metallic object on the table in Horizon 1 reacted immediately. It rose from the table on its own, floating a few inches in the air. The team stepped back in panic. "What is it doing?" one astronaut whispered. No one answered. They just watched. The floating object drifted toward the window, as if being pulled by a silent force coming from the ancient structure. The moment it reached the window, it stopped. Then a hologram appeared in the air above it, shimmering, flickering, and forming into shapes. At first, the shapes looked alien. Sharp lines, curved symbols, strange angles. But slowly, beautifully, the shapes shifted. They turned into words. Not Martian symbols. Not unknown language. English. A soft voice filled the habitat. Not human, but calm and ancient. "We existed here before you." The team stared at the glowing hologram, speechless. The voice continued. "We left warnings. We left knowledge. We left hope. You have awakened our memory. Now you must choose." The hologram changed, showing two paths. One symbol showed a rising planet, clouds forming, oceans appearing, life returning. The other symbol showed Mars dark and untouched. "Activate the terraforming sequence, or leave Mars forever." The room felt heavy. Humanity's future rested in their hands. The commander stepped forward, his heart pounding. He looked at the glowing object, then at the ancient structure outside. Mars was asking humanity a question that would change everything. The hologram hovered silently in the center of Horizon 1, glowing like a small sun. Two choices, two paths, and no time to waste. Life support was failing. Power was dead. Communication with Earth was gone. The team had never felt this alone. But even in fear, something inside them stirred. Hope? The commander breathed deeply, eyes fixed on the two symbols. "If this ancient civilization left us a chance," he whispered, "we can't turn away from it." The team agreed almost instantly. They didn't come to Mars only to explore. They came to build, to learn, to grow. And maybe, without knowing it, they came to continue the dream of a civilization that died long before humans were born. The commander lifted the metallic object. It pulsed brightly, as if responding to the decision. Slowly, he walked toward the exit door. Outside, the Martian air was thin and cold. The sky was painted in shades of orange and gold. The ancient structure stood quiet, waiting. As they approached, the circular opening glowed again. The rotating cube of light floated toward the metallic object, as if greeting an old friend. The commander held out the object, and the cube connected with it in a burst of white-blue light. The ground trembled, gently, not like a quake, but like the planet exhaled after holding its breath for ages. Panels on the structure began opening. Pipes extended. Soft hums vibrated through the air. The entire facility started to awaken, layer by layer. Symbols on its surface glowed like stars. A warm wind brushed across the desert. Warm. On Mars. The team looked at each other in shock. A thin cloud formed above the structure, just a wisp, but real. A cloud with moisture. Something Mars hadn't seen for millions of years. Inside Horizon 1, backup systems flickered to life for a few seconds, just long enough to send one final message to Earth. We activated the system. Mars is changing. Humanity has a new beginning. The message cut off, but it was enough. Outside, droplets of water appeared on the surface of the structure. Tiny beads. Not rain, but the first sign. The team stepped back, tears in their eyes. They were witnessing the birth of a new world. Above them, the hologram of the ancient civilization appeared one last time. The voice echoed softly. "Our failures destroyed our world. May your courage rebuild it." The light faded, leaving only the rising mist and warming air. For the first time in human history, Mars was alive again, and humanity's greatest chapter had just begun.